I was standing in the bridal suite, smoothing down my dress, when my daughter turned to me with that look. You know the one. The look that says she's about to say something that'll cut right through you. Mom, seriously? Her voice was sharp, dismissive. You're not actually planning to be in any of the formal photos, are you? My hands stilled on the fabric. Around us, bridesmaids in their champagne-colored gowns pretended not to hear, suddenly very interested in their bouquets. Sweetheart, I'm your mother. Of course I'll be in the photos. I kept my voice steady, calm. She laughed. Not a real laugh. That practiced, cruel little sound she'd perfected over the past 2 years. Look at what you're wearing. Those cheap clothes are going to ruin every single shot. Can you just, I don't know, stay in the background? Behind the columns or something? The room went silent. Even the makeup artist froze, brush suspended in midair. I caught my reflection in the full-length mirror. Dark skin glowing in the afternoon light streaming through the windows. My locks were twisted into an elegant updo that had taken 2 hours at the salon. And my dress. God, my dress. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever had someone close to you make you feel small? Drop a comment, because this story is about what happens when you stay quiet for too long. 2 years. That's how long this had been going on. 24 months of constant criticism, little cuts that added up to something bigger. It started small. Mom, are you really wearing that to dinner? We were going to a nice restaurant for her birthday. I'd put on a beautiful emerald blouse, one I'd saved for. She'd wrinkled her nose like I'd shown up in pajamas. It's just so dated. Her fiancé, Marcus, had shifted uncomfortably. It looks fine, honey. But she'd waved him off. You don't understand fashion, babe. The comment stung, but I brushed it off. She was stressed with wedding planning. That's what I told myself. Then came the engagement party. I'd worn a navy dress, classic and elegant, or so I thought. My daughter had taken one look and pulled me aside. Mom, seriously. That's so embarrassing. Don't you have any taste? Her voice was low, but her friends were right there. I saw them exchange glances. Pity mixed with something else. Relief, maybe, that their mothers weren't the target. What's wrong with it? I asked. Everything. She turned away, dismissing me like I was a child who'd disappointed her. Just try to stay out of the photos, okay? It happened again at the dress fitting, and the bridal shower, and the rehearsal dinner. Each time she'd find something wrong. My shoes were outdated, my jewelry was tacky, my hair was unprofessional when I wore it natural. Have you tried straightening it? She'd asked once. It would look so much more polished. I should have said something then, should have drawn a line. But she was my daughter, my only child, and I kept thinking maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't understand current fashion. Maybe I was embarrassing her. What I didn't tell her, what I kept to myself through all those months of criticism, was that I'd been doing very well for myself. Very well. After her father and I divorced when she was 12, I'd thrown myself into my career. Started as a legal secretary, worked my way up, went to night school for my degree. By the time she graduated college, I was a senior partner at one of the most prestigious law firms in the city. The kind of firm where your annual bonus could buy a luxury car. Where your clothing budget wasn't a concern, it was an expectation. But my daughter didn't know that. She'd formed an image of me years ago. Struggling single mom, scraping by, wearing clothes from department store clearance racks. She'd gone off to college, built her own life, and that image had frozen in her mind. She never asked about my work, never noticed the subtle changes. The new car I drove but didn't mention. The fact that I'd moved from our modest apartment to a penthouse condo. She was too busy with her own life, her own career in marketing, planning her perfect wedding to her perfect fiancé. And I let her think what she wanted. Because part of me, a part I'm not proud of, wanted to see how far she'd go. How cruel she could be to someone she thought had less than her. Little did I know, that calculation was about to pay off in ways I never imagined. The wedding day arrived. I'd spent weeks planning my outfit. Not just planning, orchestrating. I'd flown to New York for a private appointment at Valentino. The spring collection had just dropped, and there was one piece. One absolutely stunning piece that made my heart stop when I saw it. A tea-length dress in deep burgundy silk, with hand-beaded detailing along the neckline and sleeves. The kind of dress that whispers wealth rather than screaming it. Elegant, timeless, exclusive. Only 12 made worldwide, and each one cost $15,000. I bought it without blinking. Then I'd found shoes to match. Not just any shoes. Manolo Blahnik, burgundy satin with crystal details. Another $1,000. My jewelry was subtle. Diamond studs I'd bought myself after making senior partner. A simple gold bracelet my mother had left me. I'd had my locks professionally styled, each one perfectly coiled and pinned. My makeup was flawless, done by the same artist who worked with the bridesmaids. When I looked in the mirror that morning, I saw a woman who'd built herself from nothing. A woman who'd survived a difficult divorce, raised a daughter alone, climbed every rung of the corporate ladder, and never compromised her integrity. I saw strength. I saw success. I saw beauty. What my daughter saw was an embarrassment. So there we were, in the bridal suite, 30 minutes before the ceremony. She was stunning in her wedding gown, I'll give her that. Ivory silk with a cathedral train, probably $30,000. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. Everything was perfect except for one thing. Me. I'm serious, Mom. She turned fully to face me now. Her bridesmaids had gone quiet, watching this unfold like it was a reality show they couldn't turn off. You're going to ruin the photos. Can't you just accept that? Stay in the back during the ceremony. Don't walk down the aisle. Don't stand in the receiving line. Just be invisible. Subscribe right now, because what happened next changed everything. Something inside me hardened. That strange, cold clarity that comes when you finally had enough. I paid for half this wedding, I said quietly. My voice was steady, but ice ran through every word. I believe that earns me a place in the photos. She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes at me. You paid for half? Mom, you contributed what you could. Marcus's parents covered most of it. Don't act like your little contribution means anything. The bridesmaids were staring at their phones now, desperately pretending this wasn't happening. One of them, Jessica, had the decency to look uncomfortable. She knew. She worked at the same law firm as me, 3 levels below in the corporate department. But my daughter had never made the connection. Never thought to ask why her mother and her friend happened to work at the same place. Actually, Jessica said quietly, then seemed to think better of it, and went silent. Actually what? My daughter snapped. Nothing, never mind. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt planted. My daughter's eyes narrowed. What were you going to say, Jess? Just that your mom's dress is really beautiful. That's all. It's from some discount store, I'm sure. My daughter turned back to me. Look, I don't want to fight on my wedding day. Just please, for once, think about someone other than yourself. These photos are forever, and I don't want to look back and cringe every time I see you in them. My chest tightened. Tears blurred my vision for just a moment, but I blinked them back. I'd spent 2 years being patient, 2 years letting her think she was superior, 2 years waiting for this exact moment. I understand, I said simply. I'll stay out of the formal photos. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. God. Finally. I knew you'd come around. She turned back to the mirror, adjusting her veil. Behind her, I saw Jessica watching me with something like horror in her eyes. She knew what I earned. She knew what I could afford. And she knew exactly how much that dress I was wearing cost, because her husband was the photographer, and I'd heard him mention it to her at the last office party. His wife had wanted it desperately, but even on his successful photographer's salary and her lawyer's income, $15,000 for a dress was too much. The wedding coordinator knocked on the door. 10 minutes, ladies. Let's start lining up. The bridesmaids filed out, relief evident on their faces. Jessica paused at the door, catching my eye. She mouthed, "I'm sorry," before disappearing into the hallway. My daughter was doing final checks in the mirror. Don't forget, Mom. Background only. And maybe you could skip the cocktail hour too? Just to be safe. I smiled. Calm. Composed. Whatever you want, sweetheart. It's your day. The ceremony was beautiful. I sat in the 3rd row, not the first where the mother of the bride traditionally sits. That spot went to Marcus's aunt, apparently. I watched my daughter walk down the aisle on her own, having insisted she didn't need anyone to give her away. It's antiquated and patriarchal, she'd said. I agreed with the sentiment. even if I suspected her real reason was not wanting me beside her. The vows were lovely, the readings were touching, and through it all I felt that strange, calm determination settling over me like a cloak. I'd made my decision. I knew exactly what I was going to do. The cocktail hour was on the terrace. I mingled quietly, staying to the edges like I'd been told. Other guests, people who knew me from work, from the firm, looked confused to see me relegated to the margins, but I smiled and chatted and sipped champagne, biding my time. That's when I saw him. The photographer, Jessica's husband, David. He was an artist, truly gifted, which is why my daughter had hired him despite the steep cost. He was moving through the crowd, capturing candid moments, the golden late afternoon light making everything look like a dream. He saw me, and his eyes went wide. He actually stopped walking, camera lowering slightly. Then he made his way over. "Mrs. Peterson," he said, and there was something in his voice. Recognition, maybe a little awe. "I wasn't expecting to see you here. My daughter's wedding," I said simply. Of course. He shook his head slightly, still staring at my dress. "That's the Valentino, isn't it? From the exclusive spring collection?" My smile didn't waver. "You have a good eye. My wife wanted that dress so badly." She showed me the article in Vogue, only 12 made worldwide, if I remember correctly. That's right. He was looking at me differently now, looking at me the way people do when they suddenly realize they've miscalculated. "I have to say, Mrs. Peterson, you look absolutely stunning. Would you mind if I got some shots? The light right now is perfect, and that color against the terrace backdrop would be incredible. If you're enjoying this, hit that like button right now." Because what happened next was even better. "Actually," I said, and my voice carried just enough that nearby guests turned to look. "My daughter requested that I stay out of the formal photos. She felt my clothing wasn't up to the standard she wanted for her wedding album." David's face went through several expressions very quickly. Confusion, disbelief, then something like anger. "She said what?" "It's fine," I assured him. "She's entitled to her vision for her day. Mrs. Peterson." David's voice was firm now, professional. "With all due respect, you're wearing a $15,000 designer dress that most people would need to take out a loan to afford. Your jewelry alone is worth more than some people's cars. You look like you walked out of a high-fashion editorial. There is absolutely no reason you should be excluded from photos." The guests around us had gone very quiet. I saw heads turning, people leaning in to hear better. "Well," I said, keeping my tone light, conversational. "My daughter seems to think my clothes are cheap and embarrassing. She's worried I'll ruin her photos." David looked like he'd been slapped. "Cheap? That's Valentino. That's hand-beaded detailing. That's—" He stopped himself, professional composure cracking. "I'm sorry, but that's insane. Jessica told me your daughter was being difficult about the photos, but I thought maybe it was just normal wedding stress. This is—" "David." My hand on his arm stopped him. "It's truly fine. I understand her perspective." "No." His jaw was set now, determined. "No, I don't think you do. And I don't think she does either. Excuse me for a moment." He strode off toward the reception area where the bridal party was gathering for formal photos. I stayed on the terrace, my heart starting to pound. This wasn't exactly how I'd planned it, but sometimes the universe has better timing than you do. 5 minutes later, I heard raised voices from inside. Then my daughter appeared on the terrace, face flushed, Marcus trailing behind her looking confused and concerned. "Mom." She was trying to keep her voice down, but anger made it sharp. "What did you say to the photographer?" "I simply told him you'd requested I stay out of the formal photos." "And what else?" "That you were concerned about my clothing." Her face went red. Around us, guests were definitely listening now. The cocktail hour conversations had died down to interested murmurs. "You're making me look like a monster." "I'm just stating facts, sweetheart." "Marcus." She turned to her new husband. "Tell her she's being ridiculous." Marcus looked deeply uncomfortable. "Honey, I don't really understand what's going on. Can we just take the photos? Your mom looks great. What's the problem?" "The problem," she hissed, "is that she's trying to make this about her. Like always. Showing up in some outfit trying to get attention." "Some outfit?" The voice came from behind her. Jessica had appeared, and she did not look happy. "Sarah, that's a $15,000 dress. Your mother is wearing Valentino Couture. Those are Manolo Blahnik shoes. She looks like she should be on a magazine cover." My daughter laughed. That same cruel sound. "Jessica, please. My mom's a secretary. She probably rented that from some costume shop." The terrace went dead silent. Every single conversation stopped. 50 guests turned to stare at this drama unfolding like we were the evening's entertainment. "I'm a senior partner," I said quietly, "at Whitmore, Ackerman and Associates. Jessica works in our corporate department. We've been at the same firm for 4 years. Would you do what I did? Comment below before I reveal what happened next, because this is where everything fell apart." My daughter's face went pale. Actually pale. The blood draining so fast I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "What?" "I'm a senior partner. I specialize in corporate litigation. Last year I won the Henderson case. It was in the news. $30 million settlement. But you're a secretary." Her voice was small now, confused, like a child trying to make sense of something that doesn't fit their world view. "I was a secretary, 20 years ago. Then I put myself through law school at night, passed the bar, worked my way up. I made senior partner 8 years ago, right around the time you graduated college. Why didn't you tell me? You never asked." And there it was, the simple truth. You never asked about my work. Never asked how I could afford to contribute $25,000 to your wedding. Never wondered how I moved from our old apartment to a penthouse in the Harbor District. You made assumptions, and I let you keep them. Marcus was staring at his new wife like he'd never seen her before. "You told me your mom was struggling financially. You said that's why my parents needed to cover most of the wedding costs." "I thought she was," my daughter whispered. "No," I corrected gently. "You assumed I was. And it was easier to assume than to actually look at me and see who I'd become." David had appeared with his camera. He was shooting the whole thing, capturing every expression, every moment. Later, I'd request he delete these. But right now, I let him document my daughter's face as the reality crashed over her. The dress, she was still trying to process. "You said it was cheap." "You said it was cheap. I never said anything about price. You saw me in beautiful clothes for 2 years and decided they must be discount garbage because that fit your narrative of who I was." Mrs. Peterson, an older woman, approached, one of Marcus's relatives. "I don't believe we've been properly introduced. I'm Marcus's aunt, Patricia. I'm also on the board at Whitmore. I've heard wonderful things about your work." My daughter's eyes went wider. "You work at the same firm as my mom?" "The firm where your mother is one of our most respected partners, yes." Patricia's voice was cool. I was surprised to see her sitting in the 3rd row during the ceremony, and even more surprised to hear she was excluded from photos. I thought. My daughter was floundering now, realizing that this wasn't just between us anymore. This was her new husband's family, people she needed to impress, and she'd just been exposed as someone who treated her own mother with contempt. Marcus had gone very quiet. He was looking at his bride with something like disappointment. "Sarah, you told me your mom couldn't really afford nice things. You said we needed to be sensitive about it. That's why I suggested keeping the wedding modest. My parents offered to pay for more, but you said it would embarrass your mother if it was too lavish. I thought that was true. But you never checked. You never asked. You just assumed and built this whole narrative." His voice was getting firmer. "And then you excluded her from photos on her own daughter's wedding day because you thought her clothes were cheap? If you've ever been underestimated like this, hit that like button right now. Because watching her realize what she'd done was beautiful." The cocktail hour had completely stopped. Everyone was watching now. The happy couple's first fight, happening in public, on their wedding day. And it was about how the bride had been treating her mother. "Mom," my daughter's voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "Would it have mattered if I really was just a secretary?" I asked. "If I really did shop at discount stores? Would that have made it okay to treat me the way you did?" She opened her mouth, closed it. She had no answer because we both knew the truth. She'd been cruel because she thought she could be, because she thought I was beneath her, because in her mind, she'd surpassed me, become more successful, more sophisticated, and that gave her the right to look down on me. "I think," Marcus said slowly, "we should take those formal photos now. And Mom Peterson should be in every single one where family is included." Marcus, my daughter started. Sarah. His voice was firm in a way I'd never heard it before. Your mother is family. She's dressed beautifully. She's conducted herself with more grace in the last 10 minutes than I've seen from you in the last 10 months of wedding planning. We're taking the photos with her in them, or we're not taking them at all. It was a side of Marcus I'd never seen. Suddenly, I liked my son-in-law a lot more. David was already setting up, gesturing for the wedding party to gather. Let's use the terrace. The light's still good. Mrs. Peterson, I'd like you front and center for the family shots. My daughter looked like she wanted to protest, but she'd lost. She'd lost so completely that any further argument would only make her look worse. She stood stiffly as we arranged ourselves for photos. Me in the center, next to Marcus's parents, all of us in our designer clothes and expensive jewelry. My daughter on the edge, her perfect white dress somehow looking less impressive now. Click, click, click. David worked quickly, professionally, capturing image after image. Beautiful. Mrs. Peterson, can you turn slightly left? Perfect. That dress is photographing wonderfully. Each compliment was another small cut. I could see my daughter flinching. Good. Let her feel a fraction of what she'd made me feel for 2 years. We did photos with just the bride and groom and parents, photos with extended family, photos with the bridal party. In every single one, I stood tall, elegant, my dark skin glowing in the golden light, my expensive dress catching the sun like rubies. I smiled, not a big smile, just a small, calm, satisfied smile that said I knew exactly what was happening and I was enjoying every second. The reception was worse for her. Word had spread. Guests kept approaching me, people from Marcus's side who'd heard about the drama. They complimented my dress, asked about my work, treated me with the respect I deserved. And each time, I could see my daughter watching from across the room, her face getting tighter and tighter. The toasts were uncomfortable. Marcus's best man told a funny story about their college days. One of the bridesmaids talked about how Sarah had always been a perfectionist, always wanted everything just right. Then it was traditional for the mother of the bride to say something. I stood up. The room went quiet. My daughter looked terrified. I'm going to keep this brief, I said, my voice carrying clearly. Sarah, I've watched you grow from a little girl into a woman. I've watched you build your career, find love, plan this beautiful wedding. And through it all, I've been proud of you. Even when you didn't see me, even when you looked through me like I was invisible, I've been proud of the strong, determined woman you've become. I paused, letting that sink in. The double meaning, the gentle rebuke wrapped in compliments. Marcus, welcome to the family. I can see you're a man who values honesty and integrity, who stands up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. That's the kind of partner my daughter needs. Someone who will challenge her. Someone who will help her see beyond her own assumptions. Another pause. My daughter's face was red now. She knew. Everyone knew. To the happy couple. May your marriage be filled with truth, understanding, and the wisdom to see people for who they really are, not who you assume them to be. I raised my glass. The room erupted in applause, but it wasn't the warm, fuzzy kind. It was the awkward applause of people who just witnessed something uncomfortable but satisfying. Justice served in the form of a wedding toast. I sat down. Jessica leaned over and whispered, "That was perfect." The rest of the reception passed in a blur. Dinner was served. The cake was cut. My daughter and Marcus had their first dance, and I watched from my table as she clung to him, probably crying on his shoulder. He patted her back, but his face was serious, thoughtful. The illusion of the perfect bride had shattered, and he was seeing her clearly for the first time. I danced with a few of Marcus's relatives, had lovely conversations with his Aunt Patricia about a case the firm was working on, accepted compliments on my dress from at least 20 guests, and through it all, I maintained that calm, composed demeanor. The woman who'd been dismissed as an embarrassment was now the most talked about person at the wedding. Around 10 p.m., my daughter approached me. Her makeup was smudged from crying. Her perfect hair had started to come loose. She looked young and lost and sorry. "Mom, can we talk? Please?" I followed her to a quiet corner of the venue, away from the music and laughter. "I'm so sorry." The words tumbled out in a rush. "I'm so sorry." I was horrible to you. I said terrible things. I treated you like you were nothing. And you're not. You're amazing. You're successful and beautiful, and I was so wrong. Yes, I agreed. You were. I don't know why I did it. I think maybe I needed you to be less than me. Does that make sense? When I was growing up, you were struggling, working long hours, stressed about money. And then I got my degree and my job, and suddenly I was the successful one, and it felt good to be the one who had it together. But you weren't actually struggling anymore. You'd surpassed me years ago, and I couldn't see it. I didn't want to see it. It was the most honest she'd been with me in years, maybe ever. Sweetheart, I said gently, I don't need you to see me as less than you for you to feel successful. Your accomplishments are your own. You built your career through hard work. You found a good man who loves you. You created this beautiful wedding. None of that is diminished by me also being successful. I know that now. She wiped at her eyes, mascara smearing further. God, I ruined my wedding day. You created a memorable one, I corrected. People will definitely be talking about this. She laughed, a little hysterically. Marcus is so disappointed in me. He keeps looking at me like he doesn't know who I married. Then show him. Show him the woman who can acknowledge her mistakes, who can apologize and mean it, who can grow. Do you forgive me? I considered this carefully. I love you. I'll always love you. But forgiveness? That's going to take time. You hurt me, Sarah. For 2 years, you made me feel small and worthless and embarrassing. That doesn't go away with one apology. She nodded, tears flowing freely now. I understand. I'll do better. I'll be better. I hope so. We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. Then she stepped forward and hugged me. I hugged her back, feeling the silk of her expensive wedding dress against the silk of my expensive cocktail dress. 2 successful women, mother and daughter, finally seeing each other clearly. Your dress really is beautiful, she whispered. Thank you. So is yours. She pulled back, managed a watery smile, and returned to her reception. I watched her go, feeling that mix of emotions only a parent can feel. Anger and love and disappointment and hope all tangled together. Subscribe if you love seeing justice served, because this story isn't over yet. The weeks after the wedding were interesting. Photos started appearing on social media. Professional shots from David, showing me front and center in several family portraits, my burgundy dress standing out beautifully against the neutral tones everyone else wore. I looked elegant, regal even. My daughter looked stiff and uncomfortable beside me. The comments were telling. Friends and relatives complimenting my dress, asking where I got it, making remarks about how stunning I looked. And in the midst of all these compliments, a notable silence from my daughter. She didn't share the photos where I was prominently featured, only posted the ones where I was barely visible or cropped out entirely. Marcus noticed. I know he noticed because he started sharing the photos she wouldn't. Posted a beautiful shot of all the parents together with the caption, "So grateful for all the family who celebrated with us. Especially grateful for my new mother-in-law, who showed such grace and elegance all day." It was a deliberate choice, a statement. 3 weeks after the wedding, I got a call from my daughter. Can we have lunch? We met at a nice restaurant downtown. She was dressed in her work clothes, professional and put together. She'd clearly been crying recently. Her eyes were puffy, makeup not quite covering the redness. Marcus and I have been fighting, she admitted once we'd ordered. About you, about how I treated you, about what it says about me as a person. And what does it say? That I'm shallow, that I'm cruel, that I judge people based on superficial things, and I'm willing to hurt the people who love me if I think I'm better than them. She was twisting her napkin in her hands. He's never looked at me the way he looked at me that day. Like he was disappointed. Like he was wondering if he made a mistake. Did he say that? No. But I can feel it. There's this distance now. He's polite, he's kind, but it's not the same. And I know it's my fault. I sipped my water, letting her sit with that discomfort. She needed to feel this, needed to understand the weight of what she'd done. I talked to Jessica, she continued. She told me about the case you won last year, the one that was in all the news. I Googled it, Mom. $30 million settlement. They wrote articles about your strategy. called you brilliant, one of the top litigators in the state, and I had no idea. No idea at all. You never asked. I know. Her voice broke. I know, and that's what makes it so much worse. I was so wrapped up in my own life, my own success, that I never once thought to actually look at yours. I just assumed you were still the struggling single mom from my childhood. And then I used that assumption to justify treating you terribly. Our food arrived. We ate in silence for a few minutes. I let her stew in her guilt, let her feel the full weight of what she'd done. Part of me wanted to comfort her immediately, to tell her it was okay. But it wasn't okay, and she needed to understand that. Mom, she put down her fork. I want to make this right. I don't know how, but I want to try. Will you let me? What do you have in mind? I want to have a proper mother-daughter day. Let me take you shopping, to the spa, lunch, somewhere nice. I want to spend time with you and actually see you, actually listen to you, learn about your life, your work, all the things I should have been asking about for years. I considered this. It was a start, a small one, but a start. All right, when? This Saturday? I'll check my calendar. We finished lunch. As we were leaving, she stopped me. Can I ask you something? Why didn't you just tell me? About your job, about the money? Why let me go on thinking you were struggling? I'd been waiting for this question. Because I wanted to see how you'd treat me when you thought I had nothing, when you thought you'd surpassed me. And you showed me exactly who you'd become. Someone who measures worth by wealth and status. Someone who treats people differently based on what she thinks they can offer her. She flinched. That's not who I want to be. Then change. But don't change because you found out I'm successful. Change because treating people poorly is wrong, regardless of their circumstances. Saturday came. My daughter picked me up in her car, a mid-range sedan she was probably making payments on. She dressed casually, jeans and a nice top, trying, I could see, to not make it about appearances. We started at a spa, got massages, facials, our nails done. She paid, insisting even though I could tell it was stretching her budget. We talked, really talked. She asked about my work, and I told her about the current case I was handling. A major corporate fraud case that would likely settle for 8 figures. Her eyes went wide. How do you handle that kind of pressure? Practice. And remembering that at the end of the day, it's just money. What matters is doing the work well, representing my clients with integrity. I get so stressed about hitting my quarterly targets, she admitted, and it's nothing compared to what you do. Stress is relative. Your work matters to you. That's valid. We went to lunch at a rooftop restaurant. She asked about my divorce, about her father, topics we'd avoided for years. Why didn't it work out? You never really told me. We grew apart, wanted different things. He wanted a wife who stayed home, focused on family. I wanted a career. We were both young when we married, and we didn't know ourselves well enough to know we were incompatible. Do you regret having me? Never. I reached across the table, took her hand. You were the best thing that came from that marriage. Even on days when you drive me crazy, I've never regretted you. She teared up. I drove you crazy at my wedding. You did. I'm so ashamed, Mom. Every time I think about it, I want to die. The way I talked to you, the way I excluded you from photos, and everyone saw. Everyone knows what kind of person I am. Then show them a different person. People can change. You can change. My favorite moment was watching my daughter's face when the photographer recognized my dress. The slow realization, the dawning horror, the complete collapse of her constructed reality. What was yours? Comment below. And if you're a woman who's ever been underestimated, dismissed, or looked down on by someone who should have known better, the next story is for you. Because the thing about revenge is this. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's showing them exactly who you are and watching them realize how wrong they were. Click the video on screen now. You won't regret it. Shopping was next. She took me to a department store, clearly planning to browse mid-range brands. I steered us toward the designer section instead. She looked uncomfortable immediately. Mom, we don't have to shop here. There are other places with nice things that are more reasonable. Sweetheart, I can afford these prices. Let me show you something. I found a beautiful jacket. Burberry, $1,200, Tried it on. It fit perfectly. What do you think? It's gorgeous. But Mom, that's so expensive. I bought it without hesitation. Then I found a handbag, Gucci. $2,000. Bought that too. My daughter watched with growing disbelief as I spent over $5,000 in less than an hour. I'm trying to understand, she said as we left the store. How long have you been able to shop like this? About 8 years. And you never said anything. You never asked. You never expressed interest in my life beyond surface-level questions. And when you did comment on my appearance, it was to criticize. We sat on a bench outside the store. She was quiet for a long time. Finally, I think I resented you. Is that terrible to say? Tell me more. When I was growing up, we didn't have much. I saw you struggle, saw you stressed about bills, working long hours, and I promised myself I'd do better. I'd be more successful. I'd never struggle like you did. And then I graduated and got my job and felt like I'd succeeded where you'd failed, like I'd broken some cycle. She was crying now, right there on the bench in the middle of a shopping district. But you hadn't failed. You were still climbing, and you'd climbed so much higher than me. And instead of being proud or inspired, I felt threatened, like your success somehow diminished mine. It was the most self-aware I'd ever heard her be. Success isn't a competition, Sarah, especially not between mother and daughter. I know that now. I know I need therapy. Marcus suggested it. Actually, he insisted on it, said if I don't deal with whatever made me act that way, our marriage won't survive. He's a smart man. He is. I don't deserve him. Maybe not right now, but you can become someone who does. We spent the rest of the day together, talked about everything. My work, her marriage, my dating life, which surprised her. You're dating? Of course. Did you think I was just sitting at home alone? I guess I didn't think about it at all. I'm seeing someone actually, another lawyer. Very nice man. We've been together about 6 months. 6 months? Mom, why didn't you tell me? When would I have told you? You never call to chat, only when you need something or want to complain about something. When was I supposed to mention I'm in a relationship? She didn't have an answer for that either. The months that followed were slow. Healing isn't instant, and trust once broken takes time to rebuild. My daughter started therapy. She called me weekly, real calls where we actually talked. She asked about my cases, my boyfriend, my life. She shared about her work, her marriage, her struggles. Marcus and I developed our own relationship. He'd call sometimes just to chat. Apologize again for not seeing what was happening sooner. I should have stood up for you earlier, he said once. I just kept thinking Sarah knew her own mother better than I did. I should have trusted what I saw with my own eyes. You stood up when it mattered, I assured him. That's what counts. 6 months after the wedding, my daughter invited me to dinner at her apartment. When I arrived, she'd cooked. Actual cooking, not takeout. The table was set beautifully. Marcus greeted me with a hug. We wanted to do this properly, my daughter said as we sat down. I wanted to show you I'm trying, that I'm working on being better. The dinner was delicious. We talked and laughed, and for the first time in years, it felt natural, easy, like we were actually family instead of strangers forced together by biology. After dessert, my daughter handed me a box. I want you to have this. Inside was a photo album, the wedding photos, but not the ones she'd posted on social media. These were the ones she'd hidden, the ones where I was prominent, where my dress stood out, where I looked happy and elegant and beautiful. I was wrong to exclude you, she said. I was wrong about so many things, and I want to remember that. Want to remember how you looked that day, how graceful you were when I was being awful. I want to look at these photos and remember the lesson you taught me. I flipped through the album, picture after picture of me in my Valentino dress, of our family, of Marcus looking at his bride with love tinged with disappointment, of my daughter's face as she realized her mistake. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. A year after the wedding, things had changed significantly. My daughter had done real work on herself. She was kinder, more thoughtful. She asked questions instead of making assumptions. She treated service workers with respect. She called me regularly. Marcus had warmed back up to her. I could see the love returning to his eyes when he looked at her, the trust rebuilding slowly. They were going to make it, I thought. They were going to be okay. My daughter got a promotion at work. She called me immediately. "Mom, I got the senior account executive position." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. Watching how you carry yourself, how you handle pressure. I've been trying to channel that in my meetings. You did this yourself. Own your success." "I am. But I'm also acknowledging who inspired me, which I should have been doing all along." We celebrated with champagne, just the two of us, at a nice restaurant. She wore a beautiful dress, not designer, but lovely, appropriate for her budget, and she didn't apologize for it or act like it wasn't good enough. She'd learned that lesson. "Can I ask you something?" she said over dessert. "Why did you buy that dress, the Valentino? You had to know it would create drama when I saw it." I smiled. "I bought it because I wanted to wear something beautiful to my daughter's wedding, because I deserved to look good on that important day. And yes, because I knew eventually you'd realize what it was, what it represented, and I wanted that moment of clarity for you. It worked. It did. Are you happy?" she asked suddenly. "With your life? With how things turned out?" I thought about this. My career, strong and successful. My relationship with my daughter, healing and deepening. My boyfriend, kind and supportive. My friends, my colleagues, my beautiful home, and my financial security. "Yes," I said. "I'm very happy. Even with the hard parts, maybe especially because of the hard parts. They made me stronger. I want to be like you when I grow up," she said with a smile. "You're already grown up, but I appreciate the sentiment." 2 years after the wedding, my daughter announced she was pregnant, my first grandchild. She called me crying, happy tears this time. "I want to do better than I did with you, Mom. Want to really see my child. Pay attention, not make assumptions." "You will," I assured her. "You've already grown so much." The baby was a girl, beautiful, with dark curls and my daughter's eyes. They named her Grace, which felt appropriate. My daughter was a devoted mother, attentive and present in ways I recognized from her early childhood, before life got hard. "I understand now," she told me once while we watched Grace sleep. "What you gave up for me. The late nights, the stress, working so hard to give me opportunities. I took it for granted, thought I deserved it. Didn't realize the sacrifice. That's parenthood," I said. "You do what you have to do, what you want to do, and you hope they turn out okay in the end." "Did I turn out okay?" "You're getting there." She laughed. "Fair enough. Looking back now, 3 years after that wedding, I can see how everything played out exactly as it needed to. My daughter needed that public reckoning, needed to see herself through other people's eyes, needed to understand that worth isn't measured in income or designer labels, and that underestimating someone says more about you than it does about them. I needed it too, in a way. Needed to stop being small to make her feel big. Needed to stand up for myself instead of always being the understanding mother who absorbed her criticism without complaint. That wedding was a turning point for both of us. Painful, yes. Embarrassing for her, absolutely. But necessary. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone you love is let them face the consequences of their actions. Let them feel the full weight of their mistakes. Because that's the only way they'll learn. The only way they'll grow. My daughter is a better person now than she was 3 years ago. More humble, more thoughtful, more aware of how her words and actions affect others. And our relationship is stronger because of it, built on honesty instead of assumptions. On mutual respect instead of her looking down and me accepting it. Would I change anything about that day? The drama, the public confrontation, the look on her face when she realized what she'd done? No, not a single thing. Because sometimes the best gift you can give someone is the truth, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. And sometimes the best revenge is simply being yourself, fully and unapologetically, and letting the contrast speak for itself. I wear that Valentino dress sometimes when I have important events. Every time I put it on, I remember that wedding. Remember standing tall in that designer outfit while my daughter tried to make me invisible. Remember the moment everything shifted. Remember the photographer's words that changed the trajectory of the entire day. And I smile. That small, calm, satisfied smile that says, I know exactly who I am and what I'm worth. And no one, not even my own daughter, can take that away from me. That's the real victory. Not the public humiliation of my daughter, though I won't pretend I didn't find some satisfaction in that moment. The real victory is knowing myself, valuing myself, refusing to shrink to make others comfortable. My daughter learned that lesson the hard way, but she learned it. And in the end, that's what matters. Grace is 2 now, running around and talking in complete sentences. Last week, my daughter brought her to visit me at my penthouse. Grace ran straight to my closet, fascinated by all the pretty dresses. "Grandma has nice clothes," she said, pulling at a silk hem. My daughter caught my eye over Grace's head. "Grandma has very nice clothes," she agreed, "because she works hard and deserves beautiful things." "Just like Mommy?" "Just like Mommy. We all deserve beautiful things when we work hard for them." It was a small moment, insignificant to anyone else, but to me, it meant everything. My daughter teaching her child the lesson she'd learned, teaching her to respect people regardless of what they wear or how much money they have, teaching her that worth comes from who you are, not what you own. We ordered lunch and sat on my balcony overlooking the harbor. Grace played with her toys. My daughter and I talked about her work, my cases, the usual things. Normal mother-daughter conversation. No criticism, no assumptions. Just 2 women who'd been through fire and come out stronger on the other side. "I love you, Mom," my daughter said suddenly. "I love you too, sweetheart. I'm sorry it took me so long to really see you. I'm sorry I let you go so long without seeing me. We both had regrets. Both had things we'd do differently. But we were here now, in this moment, with honest love between us. And that was enough." Grace toddled over, climbed into my lap. "Tell story, Grandma." "What kind of story?" "Princess story." I looked at my daughter. She nodded, smiling. So I told Grace a story about a woman who worked hard and climbed high and wore beautiful dresses, about learning to value yourself even when others don't, about standing tall when people try to make you small, about the power of being yourself, fully and completely, no apologies. Grace wouldn't understand most of it. Not yet. But one day she would. One day she'd be old enough to hear the real story. The story of her grandmother's revenge dress and the wedding that changed everything. And when that day came, I'd tell her the truth. That sometimes the people who love you most can hurt you deepest. That you can forgive without forgetting. That grace and dignity are more powerful than anger. And that the best revenge is living well, loving yourself, and letting your success speak for itself. But for now, I just held my granddaughter and told her about princesses and pretty dresses and happily ever afters. Because she was 2, and fairy tales were enough. The real lessons would come later. Just like they had for her mother. Just like they had for me. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Through pain and embarrassment, and having to look at yourself honestly and not like what you see. My daughter learned hers in front of 50 wedding guests and a photographer who recognized a $15,000 dress. I learned mine over 20 years of being underestimated and learning to prove my worth. And Grace? She'd learn hers in her own time, in her own way. But she'd have 2 generations of strong women to guide her, to show her what real strength looks like, what real grace means. That wedding was 3 years ago. 3 years of rebuilding, of healing, of learning to be family again. Was it worth it? The drama, the confrontation, the pain? Every single second. Because now when my daughter looks at me, she sees me, really sees me. And that's all I ever wanted.